Record. Hello and welcome to the Mystic Chat. I'm Chris Allen, and today we have one of my favorite people in the world here, and you'll see why in just a second. But I want to do a little introduction. Who am I? I'm an ordained minister with the Fellowship of the Phoenix. I'm also an author. I'm just like, what is that thing called? Writing, author, yeah. And spiritual teacher, healer, and all the above. And I would like to introduce my co-host, Laura Gonzalez.
Hello. Hello, everybody. My name is Laura Gonzalez. I am a priestess of the goddess, a witch, a minister, a feminist, a bruja, a healer, a curandera. I'm an ordained minister. And my first book collaboration with Luella just came out. Yay! So officially official, an author. And I'm very happy to be here back on Mystic Chat. We've missed you all so much. And celebrating the season changes. So thank you all for coming. And my dear friend who moved far away from me, welcome, Frater Aaron. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Frater Aaron. I'm a magician in an armchair, a practitioner of ceremonial grimoire magic and traditional witchcraft, and a graduate of the Mystery School of the Fellowship of the Phoenix. And I curate a discussion series called Storybook, Sacred Lore of Witchcraft, where we look at famous fairy tales and stories and try to pull the threads of hidden wisdom in them.
Awesome. And I would like to introduce our very special guest, Blake Malliway. Blake, tell us a little bit about yourself, a three-sentence bio. Who are you?
Sentence bio. I feel like I'm so bad at this. Oh, can that count as a sentence?
Yes.
Oh, and can that one?
2 sentences, I'm done.
No, I'm Blake Malliway, witch. Been a witch for as long as I can remember. I am one of the co-owners of the Malliway Bros occult shop in Chicago, as well as one of the co-owners of Crossed Crow Books, also based out of Chicago. And that is it. That is my 3-sentence spiel.
Show's over. Thank you for coming. So part of the reason I wanted Blake to come on the show is, so not only is he my new publisher, but he's also my friend. But also, can I say this all the time when I'm on other people's shows and things, that you guys did something very special. You guys took an idea and not just created something, you evolved into something else, and that evolved into something else. And I think it takes a special witchcraft to do that. And I would like to know, what is exactly Malliway Brothers? What is that? And how did it come to flourish? How was it born?
Yeah, so lots of good questions. So I think, part of what prompted us to start doing what we do now was all of the stories of like the village witches who like peddled their spells and their charms. They just kind of become that focal point in whatever village they live in and whatever part of the world they live in, right? Like every culture has their village witches that people were either terrified of or turned to for help. And we wanted to be that. We wanted to be the ones that people were coming to just to feel the magic. And that's kind of what prompted us to start doing our own thing. With everything, there's a lot of magic in Chicago. We've got a lot of occult shops, we've got a lot of practitioners, a lot of groups, which is so cool to see, and we love it. But we didn't have anything that was uniquely ours. We kind of just always had to like dabble in what other people were doing instead of doing what we wanted for ourselves. So we really tried to create a community where we could just do magic and kind of make it fun again, right? Like we wanted people to just have fun doing the magic. So that's kind of what inspired us. We were talking about this the other day. Our beginnings were so lame. We used to make little potions and we would travel all around the country selling them at like pagan pride events and stuff like that. And I mean, we would go to one of these events and we would make like $400 from a weekend. And we'd be like, ah, sweet, $400. We only spent $5,000 planning everything, traveling out here, getting the hotel room, buying the rental car, paying the booth fee. And we're like, that's not sustainable. We should do something different. Which is how like the store started to evolve from that. So yeah, that's kind of how we got our feet off the ground with everything. We wanted to create like that community for ourselves, you know?
I really, really loved that, and it was interesting how I even found you guys. How did I find you guys? I was on like Google, and and I'm sure you orchestrated this somehow because you are a master magician, and I've never seen this before. On a Google search, it said Malliway Brothers store opening soon. Usually on Google search, it has to be open. I'm like, tricky, tricky, tricky. I'm gonna check him out. And that's how we became friends, you know, because I saw your trickiness.
Well, and I was, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm about to tell you this, Chris, but I was so nerdy when you reached out to us because I think I had a copy of like Underworld or something. And I'm like, oh my God, this Chris Allen reached out to us. This Chris Allen, he wants to hang out with us. And I was like, oh, now we give you crap all the time though. It's okay.
What do you think, Laura? I see the gears turning.
Yeah. Because I have an origin story that is so different with Blake. But when you said that you're sure that they orchestrated the whole thing to be on Google and all that, I'm like, of course they did. Because the Blake that I know is the hardest working person I've ever met.
I know, right?
And the most ambitious person I've ever met. And I'm very proud to be his friend first, but then to be one of the people that supports his work ethic, and that's his passion. The guy is just so passionate about working and making money. And this is a conversation that we have had many times, that other folks who love him and are well-intended are constantly telling him to slow down. And I'm like, do you, honey? Just do what you need to do. And so, of course, you know, little Midas touch, I'm sure he pulled some strings and did something to make that Google search happen. And yeah, it's just, I'm just very happy to see a friend succeed in what's coming next, you know, because
yeah, well, and I think about, I mean, both of us, Laura, like where we were 10 years ago when we used to, Laura and I used to be a part of like the same magical group, and we would meet at this old Masonic lodge in Evanston, which I don't know if you've ever chanted at a Masonic lodge in the middle of the night. It's creepy as hell. And I still remember Laura yelling at me not to go exploring the second and third stories after we were done, because we weren't supposed to do that. But I mean, just like watching where we both are now compared to 10 years ago, it's just crazy. It's nuts. I mean, you're presenting at Parliament of Religions, Laura. Like, it's just insane to see this. You're a published author. Like, you know, like it's crazy to watch how far we both have come.
our work pays out.
Yep, right, definitely.
So, you know, you started this whole thing about how you would do workshops and things, and that evolved to the store. And you know, one of the things I was impressed about is a lot of people, including myself, I love the whole dark, creepy, traditional witchcraft. Partly is because when I was introduced to spirits, my family would talk about the ghosts and hauntings and death and dying. That's how I knew witchcraft, or that's how I knew the spirits. However, meeting you guys, and first I was impressed, you know your stuff, but you made it fun. And I think what happens is a lot of people gravitate towards that because you know it gets the audience of, oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I want to have fun. And it also gives the audience of, I'm serious, I need to do my stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that aspect, about your thought process.
Yeah, I think we used to, I mean, we're not knocking any group, you know, so everybody does their own thing, but we used to go to public rituals all the time where all we would do was stand there for an hour. You know, and I'm just like, I could stand home while eating some French fries. You know what I mean? Like you just stand there. So like we wanted to make like our rituals and our workshops so much more hands-on and so much more engaging. Because I mean, how many of you were weird kids? I feel like everybody was, right? We were all weird kids. Like we just tend to learn things and experience things more by doing and touching than just by being talked at for an hour. So like that was part of the motivation for it. You know, we really just wanted to get people practicing and doing and actually using their hands to create magic. And you know, like we really do encourage like letting people express their own emotion when they're having ritual. And if you look at our stabbits, you know, our stabbits, you know, we have a structure that we try to follow, but we never let the structure overpower feeling. You know, so if someone feels compelled to scream and laugh and cackle, do it. You know, have fun. It's a holiday. It's a witch's holiday. It's not
Right.
supposed to be cold and stoic and quiet, and except for Halloween. But you know, have fun with it. And it's really fun, like, because there are times when we're all just kind of vibing together. There's like 50, 60 people cramming into our shop for a Sabbath. We finish the ritual, we stop chanting all at the same time without rehearsing. And then everybody, without missing a beat, just starts cackling, like the loudest, most hysterical witch cackle you could ever possibly imagine. And I know it's going to sound silly, but it feels like there's great power in that. Like it just feels like we're all connected at that point, you know? So yeah, that was our motivation for it.
I mean, I also think that's part of just your personality, and it's interesting because I remember the first time you and I did ritual together, I was like, whoa, these guys have a lot of energy. but you know, one of the things I try to do is when something is a different than what I do, I was like, okay, how can I learn from this? How can I become inspired? And what are they doing to tap into that something? So the magic, the power, the energy, the consciousness, whatever, and how does that work for them? You know, I think through, and the thing is, I want everyone to know it's not some giggly, fluffy thing at all, because you guys have spoken, worked with a lot of traditional crafters in England and Britain and Wales, and did you go to Ireland at one point?
Yeah, we just did Ireland for the first time back in May, which was fun. You know what's interesting though? The UK, this is again just our experience. The UK we found was a lot more magical. Like we could find more spells, we could find more witches, we could find more, you know, all the magic-y stuff. We found that Ireland was far more mythological. So it wasn't as much about like like the witchcraft. It was more about the mythology, whereas in the UK it was all about the magic. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, we dive deep into it. You know, you made this comment a couple years ago, Chris, and it always stuck with me. You said it's the witchcraft you can sink your teeth into. And I love that. And that's exactly what we go after.
And I think that the big difference in my experience from knowing Blake and now knowing Wick, the great diversity that is to work under the umbrella of witchcraft. Because for some of us, and like for me personally, my personal practice is very religious, is very spiritual, is very mystical. And I can sit on one of their rituals and feel touched by that part of the practice. But I know, and unless things have changed, I know, Blake, you are more into like sink your teeth into like the doing of spells, the spell work, the
Yeah.
magic work, the actually getting the results not through quote unquote prayer or devotion, but through magic, through doing the thing, putting the cauldron, putting the thing in the cauldron, and then dancing around it, which for some of us is like, sure, I can do it or without, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And I love how the openness of the diversity of the practice, you know, I think
Yep.
that makes it.
I will say, like, I have so many thoughts on that. So first of all, my personal magical practice, even though I love the operative spell casting, my magical practice still has a very heavy spiritual side. It's just, everybody's spiritual side is their own spiritual side, so they tend to do things on their own. But my whole like come to Jesus is not the right expression for this.
Come to Persephone, come to Hela, come to Hades
Come
for
to the-
Up to
Holda.
the horned one. Yeah, there we go. But was in my head trying to differentiate, because we saw this all the time in the shop, and we love our customers very much, but we always try to push them out of the comfort zone. If a spell doesn't work the way somebody wants it to, they're very quick to say, the universe didn't want me to have this. When in reality, they should be saying, I effed up my spell, let me try that again. Like, does that make sense? So the way Wicca and I try to preach this is putting the accountability back on the witch instead of on the divine or the universe to manifest your magical goals. But Wicca and I both have a very active, intense spiritual side when it comes to our witchcraft, very much so. But we tend to focus on those things that we can't do on our own, right? Like we can cast a spell for, I don't know, to get Chris Allen to write a book for us.
Yeah, because that's how that happened.
We should, I know, right? And we shouldn't need to invoke, at least in our perspective, like every deity in creation to make that happen. But like if we're going through a tough time in life, if we're feeling like stressed, if we're worried about our health or whatever the case might be, like you bet your butts we go to the divine and ask for divine intervention on some of this stuff. So I think there's a give and take on both sides of that.
So I want to kind of keep going down your path. So from the Malliway Brothers store turned into Crossroad Books.
Yeah.
I want to say,
So
why? What happened? What was that thing that said, you know what? We're gonna keep going.
it's weird. You would almost think we woke up one morning and said, let's start a publishing company today. Does that sound fun? But that's not how it happened. So we had our shop, right? And in the beginning, we were like, we're really just going to try to focus on the unique things, like the stuff that you really can't, the books and stuff that you can't get at like, all the other shops in the city. And one of the books in particular that we really wanted was Witchcraft and the Shamanic Journey by Kenneth Johnson. Like this book was amazing. Like I remember reading this book when I was first getting started in the craft back in the 90s and thought like, this is amazing stuff. You don't see this in like the Wicca by Scott Cunningham. And it turns out that book went out of print and we couldn't order it. We couldn't stock it in the store. We saw that there were copies selling online for $300, $400, $500 while the author is still living and should be getting royalties off of that. So that was part of our motivation. We wanted to bring some of these books that had inspired and groomed our magical practice and be able to recommend them to other people. So we took a giant leap of faith. We reached out to the author and we were like, look, we're new. This is why we're doing this. We really want to just work to bring this book back to distribution. And Kenneth Johnson, he took a stab at us and he's on his second print run too. So it's just, it worked out so well and all the things just fell into place from there. Not only were we able to bring back some like classics that had just fallen to the wayside, but we've also got an incredible lineup of brand new talent that is now in the woodworks in the forefront of magical practice. It's so cool. It's so cool. I'm so obsessed with it. It's just amazing.
Which brings me to so for those of you who don't know, the Malliway Brothers shop and its awesome. When you walk in, it feels like you're in a magical witch shop. It's like wonderfully stereotypical in the sense of you have your cauldrons and your claws and your books and your candles and your expensive tomes and your your tarot cards and all this cool stuff. And what's interesting is that the place that they're in now used to be in an apothecary in a drugstore. And it's funny, I think I told you about this before you guys moved in. People died there. And so there's
Oh,
like
yeah.
resident ghosts there. His witchcraft store actually has its own ghost. Be jelly.
It does. It totally does. Like we'll be standing after we like close down the shop and like run, our end of day stuff, and the basement door will just swing closed by itself. And we're
I love
like,
it.
we forgot to feed the ghost today. you know?
So that being said, you guys are literally 3 blocks from my house. I'm not kidding, like 3 blocks. I can walk door to door in like 8 minutes.
And we somehow only see you once a year, but we're not
That's
complaining.
not
I
true.
guess.
You see me all the
I know, I
freaking
know.
time. He's such a
I know. I'm just kidding.
no,
I'm just kidding.
no. And so I was over there, and from 2020 to just this past April, I was in a graduate program for chaplaincy and theology. And so those guys were like, "Hey, Chris, we have a publishing company. Write a book." And at first I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to have time." And then they said, "Do it anyway." And I said, "No." And they said, "Do it anyway." They're persistent. I said, "No." They said, "Do it anyway." And I'm like, "Okay, so if I'm going to do something like this, it's an easier for me to write in the summer, because normally, for those of you who don't know, when you write a magical book, you don't just type it out. You have to research, and your bibliography should be quite extensive, and it should be part of your magical practice. So if it's a brand new technique, you have to experiment with it and things like that. So from start to finish, it usually takes a year of solid research and writing. I said, I don't have time for that. So I said, hey, since I have an idea, why I work with the witch ancestors in my personal practice. I call them into my circle like every time. So why don't I conjure one of them and have them tell me their story? And so I literally called the spirits. Literally, I'm not even making this up. I called the spirits. I have a cauldron I use as a portal to the land of the dead. And I put it on my desk and I said, "Okay, spirit, tell me your story." And so I changed names and I kind of spiced up some of the storytelling, but there was a witch who in 1870 signed his name in the devil's book. And then he told me his story. And some of it is channeled, some of it is inspired, some of it is my creative inspiration, I guess. And Cross Crow decided to, and this is rarely done. You can't even see it. Hold on. I have my thing. There we go. Jonathan, not the Black Book of Jonathan Not Bristle came to be, and it's a story. It's as if this old witch is telling you his experience, and the thing I love about it, and I get emails about it, how you don't see a magical book as all the spells in here are actual spells that you can do. But the cool thing is that you can you get to see how Jonathan thinks. And so a lot of times during a spell, the author says, take this ingredient, say this chant, the end. But Jonathan says, here's what happened. Here's how I succeeded. Here's how I failed. Here's how I was scared shitless at this one point. And this is what happened. So so the Black Book of Jonathan not Perso came to be. Um, with that in mind, I did a 5-6 minute plug, and I'm not even sorry. Um, tell us about, I do have a point with all that. So the point is that the experimentation, the art. So a lot of the authors, and I've read quite a bit, because someone likes to send me a text, say, hey, Chris, can you endorse this person? Here's the PDF. So I've read a lot of
Not me. I don't know who that is.
right. So part of the thing I've noticed about Cross Corot books, it isn't, you won't find books like this anywhere else, because I don't want to say experimental, but kind of. They're artistic, they're very magical. So can you tell us about, well, what that is for you
Yeah.
and how you find your authors?
Yeah. So our acquisitions, like the way we kind of handle that is I feel like if you look at a lot of the published books out there, they're all going to follow the exact same structure. They may have different content, but you're going to see history, exercise, history, blurb, paragraph, exercise. And that's fine. That works. We really wanted to like break the mold on some of this. And one of our pillars, we have pillars, is being like author centric, right? And the way that we kind of preach being author centric is by making sure we're preserving the voice and the vision of the author, which is why you're not going to find just copy and paste repeat formats throughout all of our books, right? As far as I'm concerned, I mean, we're the publisher. Yeah, we're going to help you with marketing. We're going to invest in print runs. We're going to do all this jazzy stuff, but we wouldn't be able to do any of this without the author, which is why we try really, really hard not to change too much from what the author had originally written. So that's like the first point. Like, you're not going to see these books elsewhere, like with a few exceptions, some of the reprints we wanted to bring back. But yeah, generally, it's really trying to preserve the author's vision with this. In the beginning, when we were brand new, we had to go out and find authors. We were like, well, this reprint was good, let's do this, or this author or this person seems to be working on something, let's go after them. And we had to be a lot more aggressive with how we were finding authors. But the last year, it's been we haven't had much to do that much. Like the submissions have just been flowing through. We actually have our docket full through 2027, if you can believe it or not.
Wow.
And the fact that our pipeline is booked through 2027. We're starting, I mean, I shouldn't say fully booked, because we can still take on projects, obviously, but the fact that we're contracted out with new books through 2027 is just blowing my mind at this point. All of this, keeping in mind, is, I mean, we're a year and a half old. It's just nuts how fast everything exploded. And then on top of that, I think I can talk about this, but like our biggest, change has been our partnership with Red Wheel Wiser. Like we work with them now for global distribution, which took us from printing, a couple hundred books here and there to printing thousands of books at a time for our authors, and just nuts. It's crazy how fast it all exploded.
So that's another thing. And I know I'm doing most of the talking here of all the hosts, but I'm so excited. It's interesting how you went from doing occasional workshops for the Cross Grow. And don't get me wrong, I want the audience to know you're still doing all these things. You're still doing workshops. You still have the store. Plus, you're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing, it's a younger team. The publishing team is a younger team, and I think that's great. The reason is I think sometimes us old folks get stuck in how things used to be, and I think that young vibe adds a new fresh perspective.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think I mean, it's funny because we have, marketing, publicity, we have an editing department, we've got, sales, and somebody will get stressed like, oh, I can't believe I screwed this up. And I have to say, you literally have 1 year of experience. We're all new at this. We're gonna F stuff up. It's okay, right? Like, as long as we learn from it and move on. But yeah, you're right. Everybody is just like super young, super savvy. And I have to like shout out to our team. Like, Wick and I would not be able to do anything if it weren't for the amazing, amazing, incredible people we have working for us. And we really do try hard to just be one of, like, to take care of them, benefits, PTO, they get 6 weeks of time off per year. We're just like, take care of yourself.
Hire me, shit.
I know.
I don't get that much time off.
God, like, we're just so grateful for all of these people that have put up with our nonsense for the last year and a half, 2 years. It's nuts. So if they're listening, thank you guys. We appreciate you.
Well, I hope they're listening. You should have it in their contract. You have to hear all my podcasts and can adore me.
Well, they would walk away. They listen to me bitch out enough each day anyway. It's okay.
Aaron, what are you thinking, Aaron?
Because I don't have interaction with you the way these two do, I'm curious a little more about what your brand of magic practice is, like how you would describe it and what's influenced it. And I believe both you and Wick, when I was talking with them, talked about gathering a lot of wisdom overseas. So kind of how that came about and how you made contacts over there.
Yeah, it was by accident. I was driving home from Michigan. Oh, I grew up in Michigan. I was driving back from Michigan. This is gonna sound bad. So I was the passenger in the car driving back from Michigan, and I happened to pick up a random book from a magic shop out in Michigan, and read it like the whole way back. And it was Village Witch by Cassandra Latham Jones. And I was reading this woman's life story, and she was like the first woman to become a legally recognized like witch over in the UK. Like, she reclaimed the tradition of, a village having a practitioner that people would come to for spells and potions, and wrote, a book explaining what that journey was. We actually also published her partner, Letitia, because she's the one that kind of picked on the mantle of Village Witch after Cassandra stepped down. But that was the first book that got me thinking, like, maybe there's more than just standing in a circle and yelling in a cauldron, right? So I like Googled her, I looked her up, and I'm like, oh, she hosts workshops, she does all these things. So I'm like, Wick, let's go to Cornwall. We're just gonna go and we're gonna meet this woman. And Wick had no idea who this woman was. Like, he doesn't, he doesn't read to the extent that I read. So he's like, okay, that's fine. And he just followed me to England. We drove the 4 hours to Cornwall. We went to this woman's cottage and we were like, teach us your magic. And we just started learning, how they do things. I do want to clarify something though. Even though we go overseas a lot to study and practice, we use that as an inspiration. We don't just take what they do over there and bring it back and do it over here. The reason is because a lot of what they do is tied so much into the landscape, right? A good example, in Cornwall, they have a stone structure called the Menintol, which is a stone structure that has two like phallic-y looking stones on the outside and then one like stone with a hole through it in the middle. And these are, like people-sized stones. There's a lot of local tradition that talks about like working magic at these sites, which is impossible if you live in Chicago. We do not have a Menintol here. So what we learn out there is just how to like really connect and tap into magic of our own landscape, and use that as an inspiration for our magic. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but it's so inspiring out there. And I think what I love about it though, is like, yeah, we could argue you can go to a forest preserve and disconnect here, right? We're not separate from private places in nature to practice. But when I'm out there, it's just like, that is literally my place to disconnect. Everybody has their happy place, and that happens to be mine. So
I love it.
Cool.
I love it.
And do you have a book on working with familiars? Is that accurate?
Did he talk about that? He was supposed to keep that secret. Yeah, so that's actually coming out.
Oh wait, It's out, or am I?
Oh, yeah. So Death's Head. Yeah, I do. That was a little book that we did just to see if we could get a book out there. So that was a little book that I put together about working magic with a skull. You know, you find a skull, you put a spear in it, you forge a relationship, and then you just do the magic. I thought you meant, so I am working on another book. It's called To Catch a Fleeting Shadow. And this one is all about working with the fetch, the witch's fetch.
Ooh.
So it's going to be about 70,000 words. I might hit Chris up for another endorsement. I don't know if he likes it, whatever.
When does it come out? Or
That's not, yeah, that's not scheduled for release until fall of 2024. So it's still about
when
a year
can
out.
I have a copy of it to endorse it?
November of this year is when you can have a copy.
Okay.
I thought that's what you were talking about. Yeah. But yeah, I did. Again, that one was just to see if we could actually get a book out there. You know, we wanted to see that we could do it before we started signing all these contracts with authors.
Laura wants a copy to endorse too.
Yes. Oh, Laura can do that. I also have to make a joke here. So whenever, you know, Laura, can you show them your copy of Chris's book?
Probably.
You have to say something though. Yeah.
It's
Nobody,
hilarious.
nobody has a copy like mine, because my
Does it come apart?
it's an author's proof, I think.
So explain that to the audience. Why does Laura's copy look like that?
I remember like we had gotten like 7 or 8 galley proofs in on the same day, and there was a stack. And when you get these galleys, they don't like glue them together. They're just to see like, here's what the book's going to look like when it's printed. And Laura came up to the office once and was like, hey, you know, I'll interview your authors on our show if you want. And I just need a physical book. And I'm like, can you take these? And there were like seriously 6 or 7 like unbound galleys that we just gave Laura to read through. And I'm like, I'm surprised they're all still like in page order. Good job, Laura.
And I was talking to somebody I know in Mexico, you know, that they have nothing to do with here or the fan community here.
Yeah.
And I was telling this person, like, look, I have this like loose leaf proofs. And she was telling me something that I kind of knew in the back of my head, obviously, but never actually say the words. The level of trust. She says, oh my God, the level of trust that they must have on you to give you those loose page copies. So thank you. And now it's become joy, a source of joy and pride, because believe it or not, I mean, I saw Chris at Parliament, but I didn't have my book with me. But eventually we'll get together and I will have an autograph on this copy, which is historic. I mean, I love it. I love it. And thank you for the trust, and thank you for obviously mentioning the podcast, which I book insanely in advance, but we are going to start having more Crosscrow books, authors, mid-fall. Mid-fall, we're going to start having some of the authors from Crosscrow. So follow Lunatic Mondays and you will listen there about those authors. Yeah.
I love how we're all about, let me plug my book, let me plug my show, let me plug a different
Seriously.
show. I love it. I think it's awesome.
I do too. Yeah, absolutely.
It's called building community.
Well, see,
Agreed. I like that.
you know, I think that's one of the things that I really was impressed about Malliway Brothers, is because it began with the idea of community. And you know, one of the things I talk about is, you know, in Chicago, I've run the Fellowship of the Phoenix, which is a queer pagan group, and that's, you know, for all queer people 18 and up. In that service, you know, I do that as a service. I do that because I'm called to do it. But then I have my own tradcraft circle that's separate from that. That's just a me thing. And what I kind of like about how Malliway does things, you kind of combine the two together, sort of, because I will say, and I'm sure everyone here who's on the show or in the audience can verify, it's really challenging sometimes to get people at different magical levels to all come together. And I will tell you, when people create a ritual that's able to do that, that's art, let me tell you. And I think you guys do a good job about including everyone, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We really do try. And we like I said, we want it to be something that people can actually come and feel like they participated instead of just observed, right? And I think we had to change our approach on that, because I feel like when you're writing rituals for groups, like you can't write them for yourself. You got to write them for the benefit of the group, you know?
That's right.
Yeah, and that can be a challenge, but as long as everybody has a part, as long as everybody gets to say something and feel like they did something, then everyone's happiness goes up and they're so much more engaged, and they're just a lot more vested in the whole experience, which I think is fun.
Yeah, one of the things I'm working on now with all of my rituals, classes, workshops, and everything is, I find it's easy to get people to create something that people can participate in. The challenge is getting the people to actually say something and participate and actually be their authentic selves. Because I think from other groups, from other people, there's so much judgment, that people are
Yeah.
afraid to actually shine, you know.
Yeah,
How do
yeah,
you guys
and that's
handle that aspect of it?
we actually start in the beginning. I'm like, nobody cares what you look like, nobody cares how silly you look, nobody cares what you sound like. Just throw everything off the table. Like, it's not uncommon for Wiccan and I to start acting silly in the beginning before we get started, just to kind of get everyone to drop their defenses and drop their shields, right? We also really preach you get out of a ritual what you put into it. So we really make sure that everyone knows that going into it. So when it's time to like raise power and chant, and we're trying to, turn the mill and all that stuff, I think we just try to let people have the experience that they're going to have. And we're like, if you feel like you need to shake and sway back and forth, do it. If you feel more powerful just standing and chanting, do it. If you feel like you need to dance in place, do it. No one's going to be judging you. Everyone's going to be doing their own weird thing, so they're not going to have time to judge you for yours,
I love
So
that.
we really do try just to drop the shields and make sure everyone is just comfortable in their own skin for at least 2 hours when they're with us.
So if you had one energetic thread that runs through everything, runs through the workshops, the store, Crossroad books, what is that thread?
Wait, what do you mean? Like, what motivates me to do it?
What's the motivation? What's the magic? What's the intent? I guess intent, like what's what's at the core intent? Like, what is that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think really at the core it is, community. We started building a community of witches in Chicago that's expanded now. Malliway's the shop has like a cool cult following, and it's really flattering when people are like, oh my God, I drove here all the way from Iowa just to visit your store. And I'm like, that's cool. I gotta go. No, I'm just kidding. We're very grateful that they do that. So that's really cool. And then on the Cross Crow side of things, like we're meeting our, our legends. Like we're meeting the people that groomed us into witchcraft when we were reading these books, and it's just so cool. We have Stephanie Grimassi coming out in
That's awesome.
a week. Yeah, not even 2 weeks to celebrate the autumn equinox with us. Like Grimassi, like, are you serious? Like this is just nuts. So it's like it's that kind of like feeling that we get when we get to see this community coming together that just gives us all the silly warm fuzzies.
And a little bit of what you were talking earlier, Chris, and what we were talking about at the panel for Chicago
At Parliament.
at Parliament, because these guys are also opening up the store for people like me, who are readers, who are practitioners, who are facilitators or teachers. And when we were doing that panel, Blake, you weren't there, but we were talking about how important it is that we have these shops, us, the readers, the practitioners, the healers, the curanderas, the brujas, etc., because that's where we get to know each other. That's where we get to work. That's where we get to gather and to. It's also not only a place where we are safely within the community, working for our community, but also making contacts, making connections, and perhaps getting to know other people that if I don't know how to fix something or how to work something, or if this and that is not my expertise, I can tell them, hey, go to Malliway's, and maybe they know somebody. I'm sure, because I know that you have a drawer full of business cards with different business cards of different people that are healers, practitioners, witches, and etc. So thank you.
Definitely. Absolutely. And we don't just allow anybody to drop their business cards off either. Like, we got to know you. Like, if we're going to be, no, you, we know, so you can. I just meant like the random person coming in, like, here you go, promote me as an astrologer. We're going to be like, who the hell are you? Like, why should we promote you? But I was going to say, like, one of the unique things about our store is that when you first walk in, there are no products. There's no, like, cash register. There's a sitting area. There's a lounge, right? We've got the sitting area. We've got the little table there that people can, bring their computer, crack open a book, whatever. And the reason is, like, we're very adamant about having that. I don't know if you guys know, Gerald Gardner, Cecil Williamson, back in the day. They're the ones that were kind of responsible for the modern witchcraft renaissance. They met at the Atlantis bookshop in London back in the 40s, I believe, maybe the 50s. And, those two minds coming together have propelled everything that we have in modern witchcraft today. So whenever I see two customers that just start talking, like in our lounge area, I'm like, what amazing magical things are you two geniuses going to come up with, 20 years down the line together? And that's what gives me, like, the butterflies inside, and why we, like, keep doing what we're doing, because the next generation of witches could be finding out a way to just take their ideas and turn them into reality right in front of us, and we just went, no. So cool.
Well, two things. The first thing is, that's how the Golden Dawn got started. You know that, right? The same thing, because in the 1800s you didn't have, internet and all that stuff, and people would have a salon, and a salon in the traditional senses, you would have tea and coffee and sometimes a cocktail, and talk about art and things like that. Well, they were talking about magic, and I think that's amazing. And to be honest, one of the things I was really impressed about your space too was those couches, because it's like it's hospitality, but you come from hospitality, so you already have that background,
it's annoying. Well, I think it's great. Everyone else thinks it's annoying, but my background is like hotels before I went on my own. So I'm always like, oh, say my pleasure when you're talking to the guests. Like,
Yep.
They hate it. They hate me for it. It's okay.
One last thing I wanted to talk about is, everyone on this show has heard me say, I don't like people who try to write books that aren't deep simply because they want to be famous. I hate that. That's a pet peeve of mine. If I think that if you like Laura Gonzalez, she loves do everything. And at Parliament, I was teasing her because she was literally in everything. But Laura has substance, training, depth. She's a priestess of Circle Sanctuary. She has that rich training. And so when people know her, they know it comes from a place of like value and depth and connection to spirit. One of the huge things that makes a difference from me about Cross Crow, you don't see that at Cross Crow ever. What you see is these like everything I've read, even if it isn't my style, it's deep. However, it's not so deep to where it goes over your head. It's just enough to go, wow, I feel changed.
Yeah.
I learned something,
Yeah. Yeah, we're not afraid to publish like the deep stuff. We're not afraid to go there, we're also breaking into oracle decks and tarot cards and all that stuff, and we've got several really cool ones on the books. One of the ones that I can't talk about yet, but I will be able to soon. We're making an effort to like show nipples. I'm like, come on, like free the nipples, right? Like no other publisher would touch this because they didn't want to show nipples. And I'm like, this is stupid. If you can show a guy shirtless, you can show a girl shirtless. So like our whole thing is like free the nipples. So we're trying to be edgy within reason, if that makes sense.
I love it. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. So, before we go, any final thoughts that you may have, Blake?
No, for the first time, my mind is, what's that word? Empty. Empty.
Laura, what are your final thoughts?
Obviously the shameless plug, which I thought Blake was gonna do, but he
Oh.
might have forgotten.
Oh,
Uh,
for me? Yeah.
For Malliway Brothers has Fair of Fortunes that happens quarterly or so, where a bunch of readers that have been bet and have been approved, a bunch of readers get together and they create this space. It's kind of like an incubator for us readers to go and service, heal, and make a little money, obviously. So it's going to happen in October 27, 28, and 29. And I will be there personally on the 27th, but I know there's going to be a whole other bunch of amazing readers, healers, and astrologers, I think, the 28th and the 29th. And it's the Halloween weekend, so you need to come and get a reading.
The 28th and 20. Yes. Okay. It's going to be nuts. Get ready.
Yeah. And personally, I was saying before we started recording, and I'm going to say it again, these three folks here are some of my very favorite people, and I just love them to death. And I'm very happy personally to see you, Blake, succeed, because
Yeah.
you're
Well,
amazing and I love you. And I'm so happy of everything that the brothers have done together.
yeah, I couldn't do it without my evil twin. He's not really my twin. I look better, but I couldn't do it without Wick.
Rude.
I'm just kidding. He's amazing. But yeah, no, yeah, we're taking over the world. That's our plan. Thank
I
you.
love it. What are your final thoughts, Trader Aaron?
Well, I wish I was in the vicinity to visit the store and the conclave, but
You could be if you really wanted to. You can come
but I
back
have
and live with us.
I have a handful of Cross Crow books, and I'm looking forward to many more. So yeah, I really enjoyed hearing more about the publishing company and what you have to offer.
Thank you.
I do want to say, Blake, please make sure you send me info about the 28th. And I'm just okay. One of the things I'd love to do is I'd love to like tease Blake and Wick and get on their case. The reason is because I know they're going to text me about something, so I try to get it all in before they do. Also, oh hey, what's the seance thing that's happening on? I want to say the 8th. That is, save me a spot.
Yeah.
I'm coming to that. I've already put it on my calendar. I'm coming. Talk about that real quick.
Yeah. So we are more. The Bones Fall in a Spiral by Mortellus. They originally wrote "Do I Have to Wear Black," which was published by Llewellyn. We've taken over their like new titles that are coming out. So "The Bones Fall in a Spiral" is the second title that they've written, and we're celebrating the book launch. So we've got Mortalis. We're flying them out to Chicago for 3 full days of magic. We got them at the shop for an event. We're going to have them doing a workshop in Graceland Cemetery. We've coordinated with them. They're amazing. We've got them booked into Hoof and Horn in Aurora, which if you guys have never been, if you're in the suburbs, you got to check out Hoof and Horn. So we've got a bunch of stuff going on with them. And then the weekend of the 20th, I believe, we're flying them out to Ohio, Cleveland. They're going to be doing events at the Witchcraft Museum out there. Couple of cult shops that we've got. October's in Lakewood is another one that we're going to be sending them to. So we've just got them jet setting all over the country for the month of October. So yeah, it should be fun.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've actually gone over. We rarely do this except with our favorite people. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Blake and Frater Aaron and Laura Gonzalez and everyone else. I will try to have this show on YouTube ASAP, but you have to bear with me because, you know, life. So anyway, have a good night, and we will see you guys soon.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay, it's funny. It's been so long. I can't figure out how to turn this thing off. Where is it? Stop live stream. Stop recording.